everyone. We're honored to have Senator Cantwell join us today. And if you'll put yourself on mute so that we don't pick up any background noise, I would appreciate that. I'm trying to do that for everyone right now. If she only has 30 minutes, so we've got pretty limited time. And I've already gotten quite a few requests for questions. But so if you do have a question for the senator, please either put your question in the chat or raise your hand and I'll be sure to call on you. So Senator Cantwell, please feel free to take it away. And again, we're very honored and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Colleen, and thanks to everybody for your continued focus in Callam County on economic development and your work at these sessions. I'm happy to be able to join you. Wanted to do so because of our recently passed infrastructure bill and just to talk about some of those things to make sure the community was thinking about them to how we can be a partner in helping for the future. Obviously, I love Callam County and love to continue to work with all of you on many issues that we've tried to work on in the past, everything from infrastructure up at Olympic National
Recording Park in progress
to transportation infrastructure to many tribal and economic development issues. So you got a lot of great partners there in the region. One of the things I wanted, a couple of things to mention is that we, in passing of the infrastructure bill, did something for the very first time from the transportation sector, which was to try to focus on what we're calling salmon infrastructure. So much of what we've done in the past in our road development has put us at disadvantages when it comes to culverts. So this legislation actually, so Callam County, you could say, is almost like the culvert capital with so many projects that could get assistance and funding. So we hope that this new program for our state will help Callam County and that people will look at that culvert funding and look at some of the projects. I know there are projects in various parts of the county that could be used. Also in the infrastructure bill is money for bridges, and you have many besides the highway coming through there, that we have so many structural deficiencies in our state that we think that some of this transportation infrastructure dollars could go to bridge repairs and particularly help with funding. So we want to make sure the county and the state are thinking about Callam County in that regard, like 101 bridge over the Solduck River and the Highway 112 bridge over the Bullman Creek. Both of them we know need replacement. We think that that's a big investment. Also money for airports. So Fairchild could get resources to help maintain the runway and taxiways there. Obviously a continued growing effort by the community for air service. And we want to make sure that they take advantage of the infrastructure investments that they can make to help keep the airport in the best possible conditions. And obviously Callam Transit, there were dollars there for about $5.2 billion in competitive grants that people could look towards to help improving their fleet moving forward. Secondly, wanted to mention that we are pushing for another round on restaurant infrastructure, helping them. So many of our restaurants are key to our community's economic development. They are the places that hold our community together, speak to our community, attract visitors to our community. And in the last rescue plan, only about half of the restaurants that applied for funding got funding. And we, in a bipartisan effort with my colleagues, Senators Cardin and Wicker and Collins and myself and others, are trying to, in the next several months, get a second round of restaurant funding that would help these businesses who've been hard hit by COVID, hard hit by rising prices, hard hit by just the impacts of continued loss of customer base. I guess the best thing to say is, and particularly in the Olympic Peninsula case, of a through traffic of people who continue to visit has been slowed down immensely. And lastly, just wanted to mention that that work I mentioned at Olympic National Park, We worked very hard in the lands package that we did to really, for the first time in many years, upgrade our infrastructure. So there are improvements at Hurricane Ridge that will get done, enhancing the park's ability to continue to operate in a successful way and attract more people in the future with these improvements. So want to hear really from you guys today about the things that are on your minds, but wanted to tell you that these are things that aren't far from our minds, and we're always thinking about them and always thinking about Callam County needs and how these federal policies fit within the framework of what the community is pushing for and needs. So I didn't touch too much on the healthcare side, but we've done that in some of our past visits to Port Angeles and to other places. But if that's a subject people want to talk about, but you guys have done some pretty innovative work there and continue to grow your healthcare infrastructure. And we're really proud of what you guys do in that regard. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Colleen. And again, thanks for the opportunity and look forward to hearing what's on people's minds or answering any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you. So it looks like Tina and Eric Thompson have a question. They are the owners of Tedesco's Fresh in Sequim. Go right ahead.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Senator Cantwell. It's an honor to meet you on even in Zoom. It's pretty cool. So they asked us to kind of touch on some of the things you talked about in your opening, because we are an important place in the community. I mean, everybody gathers there. You can, it's places to be seen. It's for special occasions and family and friends, of course, and we've struggled a lot through this whole thing. And you identified briefly some of the things that we've dealt with, but staff shortages being one of them. And most recently, the biggest hurdle has been inflation. I mean, some of our pricing is like 200% higher than it was currently. We've increased expenses with to-go packaging, creating outdoor seating venues. We've had to give bonuses and pay increases to employees so they don't bolt to other employers who are looking for the same help but higher wages. And then, all the policy changes we've had over the last 2 years have greatly cut into our revenue stream, as you have kind of outlined. So, and Tina brought up, is there a timeline for some of this relief in the second round of restaurant funding, and what do you think that'll look like? And we applied for the first round and did not get that one, unfortunately. So what's that going to look like for us that have been involved in all this, and how do we keep moving forward? Because there's really, the struggle is still ongoing, even with some relief in sight. So thank you for your time.
So I hear you, and we heard that a lot yesterday from restaurateurs around the state. We had a roundtable with, but the issue is, I've been a member of the Small Business Committee since I've been in Congress. So I get this is where major job employment is for the United States. We had hoped that as we were talking about this Build Back Better program, that we would get this support and get it included. Unfortunately, it didn't get included either in the infrastructure package or in Build Back Better. Now we really want to prioritize it in the next 2 to 3 months for an additional $60 billion. The first round was about $30 billion. And immediately got absorbed by businesses and left about half of the people in our state that would have been, that were eligible when they applied without being accepted to the program. There's just an subscription of people who needed this resource. The reason why we think we should come back to it is because my sense is that many of these restaurants have, you're way overextended. You have no more capacity. You've used every trick, every tool you could, every leverage of your own financial schemes, anything that you could do to keep your business open and running. And we're just not through this. And you've had to, as you mentioned, deal with a workforce shortage and also higher prices. So we think if we want to keep this infrastructure, this restaurant infrastructure in our economy, we're going to have to do more. So we're hoping that in the next 2 months that we will find another legislative vehicle in Congress that we can include this package to. We're working with some of our colleagues who, some of them want it all paid for in a, from a government perspective. And there could be some differences, but right now there's about 6 to 10 of us in a bipartisan effort working on this. And we do have the commitment of, the House and Senate leadership that they want to do it. We're just trying to raise everybody's voices on this about really understanding that tight squeeze that you've been through and continuing to go through. And the Omicron, there was a survey yesterday by the National Restaurant Association that said things are worse now than they were 3 months ago. And so no one is feeling like they're out of this crisis, and no one is feeling like even if there was daylight there that everything is resolved. These precarious positions that you sit in need some financial relief.
Okay, great. Thank you. I know TJ Green, the chair of the Macaw tribe, had a question as well. Chair Green.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It's great to be on the call with everyone. Senator Cantwell, thank you for joining us out here on the West End. I know you're really familiar and have paid regular visits out here. We definitely appreciate you taking the time to do that. It's important that these rural areas, that you see that firsthand as you've done so regularly throughout your time in office. So we appreciate that. You're very familiar with our roads. We got one road in, one road out for a lot of these communities, Neah Bay, Callam Bay, CQ, the communities of Bowman Beach. And one of the key issues facing, the peninsula is a long-term solution for Highway 112. It's often closed due to landslides. It cuts off the Macaw tribe, Callam Bay, CQ timber movements. The timber industry is an important industry out here. The Callam Bay prison, there's a lot of people commuting on those roads to and from those communities. The United States Coast Guard station, as well as the school district that's there as well. The highway is still closed now due to flood events in November, and may not be open for several weeks, up to a couple months here. So what funding is available to help us find a solution to this issue?
Well, one of the reasons why we put such a focus on the infrastructure bill is that we are so behind, and then we also, at long-term infrastructure investments, we also are seeing so many more of these weather events that are really literally cutting us off from, our communities, and we have to make those improvements. So there is a program called the RAISE Grant Competitive Program that I hope that the state and the county and tribes will work together on to seek money to make those repairs to the highway. Obviously, that is a critical part of infrastructure, as you just mentioned, for all of those reasons. The Coast Guard, the continued economic opportunity for tourism in the area. So we need, it's a critical part of infrastructure, and we need that road repaired. So that is something that we need to do right now in applying for that. And so I think the county's doing that. I think the community, but we'll follow up with a team of people to make sure that that is happening. But there is, this is the largest infrastructure investment in a long time. It's way overdue. I mean, there was a report that showed that we had lost as a percentage of GDP. We had been at like the lowest point since, basically 50 years on the level of investment as a percentage of our GDP. So we're now getting that investment back up, and we just have to take advantage of prioritizing these projects within our state and why they're so important. And I would assume that Highway 101 and Highway 112 are basically the top priorities for the community and should be able to get funded.
Thank you, Senator. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And just so you know, I was out hiking on your coast this summer and had a great time. So
excellent. Welcome anytime. Thank you.
I know Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Randy Johnson has a question.
Well, a couple of questions. Thank you, Senator, for being here. And as TJ so nicely stated, the whole issue of Highway 112, 101, those of us who think about the entire West End being potentially cut off, it could be critical to all those citizens. I mean, as well as a lot of other infrastructure. So thank you for highlighting that. That's certainly on all of our local radars, no doubt. Along with that, the whole issue of broadband, which just, I think this pandemic's made it so clear that those people that are unserved and underserved, whether it be relative to education or the myriad of other things, is just going to continue to be, as people keep saying, it's the electrification we need in this country. And then I'd also like to thank you for, again, going back a little bit, the whole ARPA funds, because whether it was to help businesses or childcare or just a whole bunch of other things that are the money we've dispensed. I mean, we're making some changes in things like food banks that were needed before, but finally are being made, and it just became critical to our community. The one thing that we were, when we were talking to Representative Kilmer yesterday, and the whole issue of funding, for infrastructure, we have a major project that we've been working on with the city called our EOC, Emergency Operations Center, and 911 Center, that we've been working on and starting to fund. The reason being that they're both in locations that if we have any kind of major earthquake, it'll all come tumbling down on top of us. And we went through the infrastructure bill, and being honest, I couldn't see where there was a good fit, if there is one. So I'll just put that back out to you and or your staff if you happen to think about that. But again, thank you for.
Yeah, where would it be located, Commissioner? What would you have it do, and what
Well, both the 911 centers now located at the city, and again, it's in a seismic area that would come down. The 911, the EOCs in our county courthouse, which also probably come tumbling down, is less than stable where we are, and we're going to locate to a safe location, which is out at our airport together, because it's just going to be a critical thing if we ever have a major emergency like that. So, and again, we've been working on that with compliments of some other folks on this call for a while. Where do we locate? How can we be safe? And again, it's a kind of a different change than what we'd been thinking about before, but certainly one of those necessary things we need here in the county. So
what do you think the cost of relocating that is out to the airport?
All together, I think for both sides, something on the order of $12 million.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's look at that. It is, as you said, it's not like there's a specific category that we can point to at this moment, but I do think that this is, a huge priority. I think just all of these events, fire events, flood events, all these things have made everybody much more conscious of the fact that we have to have a communication system that will stand the test of that, because it's the hub of that response and the hub of communications to the community. So I think we should figure out where within either FEMA dollars or other infrastructure dollars there is some broadband 911 support dollars. Maybe there's something there, and we will look at that with you.
Wonderful. Thank you. This may be a very productive call. Cindy Brooks from the EDC Team Jefferson, my partner organization on the North Olympic Peninsula. Cindy, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Colleen. Nice to meet you, Senator Cantwell. I imagine that all of us are experiencing some form of a great unraveling right now as our supply chains are becoming less resilient. I'm thinking about the wicked challenges that we have before us that really demand a different way of thinking. And one thing that has concerned me is how traditional economic thinking and business development tends to look at things in silos rather than as interconnected. So I'd like to bring up the topic of salmon recovery just as an example. Salmon, of course, are a really important species for the North Olympic Peninsula. Salmon recovery will affect business, obviously, but the way we have been thinking about it is, fisheries and aquaculture are separate from forestry, which is separate from manufacturing. And I'm just wondering if we're trying to recover a species that's so critically important to this place and the people in this place, both currently and historically. I wonder how government and how we can think about salmon recovery differently to actually be successful in our endeavors.
Well, I think, first of all, very influenced by, your region, by both Ron Allen and TJ in those two organizations, and the communication, I would say, across our state on how problematic culverts had become. And when you think about the ability to enhance some of these things, there's a project that we got done with the help of the Federal Railroad Administration, just up I'm right now in Edmonds, Washington, but up at Meadowdale Beach. Perfect example, the railroad came through there and blocked the salmon's ability to migrate up into those creeks, and it was just really bad engineering from the salmon perspective. Now with that investment, they are revitalizing that park in that area. I mean, it's not only just an improved habitat for salmon, it's improved habitat for people and visiting and enjoying our coastline and enjoying that experience. And so I do think that the culvert aspect is an important aspect. It's not the only aspect. I think, for us, we are challenged with this dual problem of we have a changing climate and environment that is really costing us a lot. Really, I mean, it's in the billions of dollars every year. And so we are now trying to figure out what are some of those adaptation and mitigation strategies that can help us. And so we have to listen to that science. And we're also trying to upgrade our weather forecasting ability. One of the things I know the peninsula counts on most is great weather forecasting. So much of your industries and sectors, and we worked long ago to get a new Doppler system out there, but we still don't have state-of-the-art weather information, and we're not really calculating. I mean, you hear all the time about the European model. When you're listening to the news and they're saying, well, here's what the weather is, but then they say, well, here's what the European model says. That means because the Europeans have put supercomputing time behind the information. So I think that we have to upgrade our weather forecasting information system, so we also have a better sense of what we're going through, what really we're going to go through, what kind of problems we're going to face, and hopefully then do better adaptation and mitigation strategies. But I'm convinced one of the things that, I mean, obviously besides having the national lab out there, and they do tremendous work, the work that the community is doing and trying to be a leader on composites and working with composites and CLT, so cross-laminated timber. I feel like there's like just this, people probably don't even really know what great work everybody's doing, but literally groundbreaking work on trying to figure out how to take advantage of more lightweight materials from a recycling perspective. That's what the composite recycling efforts are in the county, and trying to be a leader in that. And then also trying to see if there's some way to marry that with cross-laminated timber, which is also a better way to store carbon, and we think has huge potential for us. Is there's two ways to marry those things together. Well, that's such cutting edge research on just being better stewards that I think can help us. So the reason I'm tying those two things together is because sustainability sectors are going to grow immensely. Any business that is about sustainability is just going to be a big economic opportunity. And I hope that helps us, right? Get better information about what we're going through, marry it up with better economic opportunity, but get really good data so we can make those important decisions we have to make.
Thank you, Senator Cantwell. We probably have time for one more or so. I see Marcia Macy from the Olympic Peninsula Visitors Bureau has had her hand up for a while. Marcia.
Thanks, Colleen. And thank you so much, Senator Cantwell, for your tireless hard work on behalf of all of us Washingtonians. It really is appreciated. I was happy to hear about the transportation package as I'm sitting in line waiting for a ferry, and we are very dependent on our ferry system out there as well. But my question concerns outdoor recreation, the outdoor recreation sector. You mentioned Olympic National Park, and of course, the Olympic National Park is the 9th most visited national park in the country. We've seen tremendous uptick in outdoor recreation, especially these last couple of years. And I'm just wondering what Congress is or can do to better support our outdoor recreation economy.
Well, we passed just a couple of years ago this major reform where we made permanent the Land and Water Conservation Fund and basically made sure that the funding also went, the funding was actually there in the budget the way it was supposed to be, as opposed to being put into general fund. And the things that were identified out at Olympic were about 7 million of rehabilitation to Hurricane Ridge from roads and trails and facilities within the lodge itself. And so people don't understand you have to upgrade the infrastructure if you want to keep the facility attracting people. So this was the biggest investment. Our whole efforts are to try to communicate to people that the outdoor economy is third behind finance and healthcare. That's how big it is. That's how big its economic impact is to the United States. And so the more we can invest in those public lands opportunities, the more you can grow businesses around that. And that's what we're seeing, that it's also become a major employer. The number of recreational businesses, whether that's hunting or fishing or hiking, or just people who want to drive up to Hurricane Ridge, it's all an impact. So what we're looking for now is making sure that those dollars get spent wisely and those investments get made. And then what else can we do to encourage more of that economic activity, communicate about that economic activity, in our park system so that people understand what those, almost promoting, if you will, more diversity in our consumers who are traveling to our national parks.
Wonderful. So it is 8:30, I see, and I know Senator Cantwell had a hard stop at 8:30. So thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. There's, of course, a lot more questions and people have their hands raised. Would it be okay if we make sure we get those questions to Casey and he can communicate through you?
Yes.
To you about those? Wonderful.
That would be great. Or I'm happy to call people later today. Really appreciate it. I know you have other speakers too, so but really appreciate everybody and the opportunity. And thank you for, again, being such a great EDC and calling your leadership. We have so many special parts to our state, but clearly you guys live in one of the most beautiful special places. So thank you for
Great.
to grow that economy and for your work in so many different areas.
Well, thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.